Hi guys, my name is Emily, and today I'm going to be participating in #BeyondTheCover. #BeyondTheCover is a project that aims to look at book-to-film adaptations, or book-to-television show adaptations. I was asked to participate by Now Voyaging, and I will leave a link to the blog and all of the other people participating in this in the description box down below. It was really cool to be asked, so thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this. So I decided to compare the Shannara Chronicles, the Elfstones of Shannara by Terry Brooks, to the television show that MTV put out earlier this spring. Quick disclaimer, I am new to Terry Brooks. This is the only Terry Brooks book that I have read. I know the world, the Shannara world that he has written is quite vast. I've heard that the TV show kind of picks and chooses from other book storylines and plops them all into this one TV show. So there were some aspects that weren't in the book that were in the TV show that I'm not sure if the TV show just ad-libbed because they thought why not, or if it actually comes into play in another book. I'm not sure about that. So I can only really speak to what happens in this book. So quick plot synopsis. The magical elf tree called the Elcris. It keeps all of the demons contained in the forbidding. And the Elcris is dying. And so this druid named Alanon shows up and he's like, hey guys, you gotta go get the seed and take it to the Bloodfire and then plant the seed and renew the Elcris, obviously, before the demons escape, and it will be all good. Then some of the demons escape, the Dagdamor, the Reaper, and the Changeling, they escape and they cause some disturbances in the kingdom. One of the disturbances is killing all of the Chosen, and the Chosen are the people who the tree has chosen to care for it, and in the event that the tree needs to be reborn, the Chosen would go take the seed and take it to the Bloodfire and then take it back to the tree. The Chosen would go on that quest. But all of the Chosen are murdered, except for Amberly, who is the elven princess. She abandoned this role of Chosen, and so Alanon's like, hey, we should go get Amberly because she's our only hope. And he brings along this guy named Will Olmsford. So Alanon finds Will studying to be a healer, and he's like, hey man, I gotta get you to go on this quest. Here, have these magic elf stones. They'll do some pretty awesome shit if you ever figure out how to use them. And he's like, well, okay, I guess. And so they go get Amberly, and then they bring her back to the castle, and the tree gives her the seed, and she takes the seed, and she's like, derp derp, I'm gonna take the seed to the Bloodfire. Do we know where the Bloodfire is? Nope, it's just in a place called Safehold. No idea where the fuck Safehold is. But we're gonna go journeying into the wilderness on this really tight timeline so that the demons don't destroy our country. So they do that, and of course shit happens along the way, and eventually they get to the Bloodfire, and they Bloodfire the seed, and they take the seed back to the castle, and this review obviously contains spoilers. So in the end, you find out Amberly is the seed, and she becomes the new Elcris. She becomes a fucking tree. And Will Olmsford is devastated, and Alanon is kind of like, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen, but I also knew that if I told you that, you wouldn't do it. So the world is saved, and Amberly's a tree, and Will gets together with this kind of sexy rover girl who, for some reason, just inexplicably thinks he's kind of cute, and does some pretty life and death shit with him, and then they get together. The end. The television show follows a pretty similar plot, except the television show also introduces some different characters, which I assume are maybe from other Terry Brooks storylines. What I didn't like is that the TV show doesn't really provide you with enough information about each character to understand their motivations. So the characters in the show often come off as really inept. Will, Eritrea, and Amberly never want to kill anyone. They just want to kind of tie them up and oh. But in the book, it makes sense that they don't want to kill anyone because Will is a trained healer, life is sacred. Amberly is an elf, and elves are super connected with nature, life is sacred. Eritrea really isn't a character that much in the book, she's just kind of like a walking pair of tits. She doesn't really have to have motivation. It's nice that the TV show gave her a part at all. And that was one thing that I really appreciated about the television show, was that the television show did really amp up the lady characters in the fact that they had character. Because the book, the ladies are really kind of sidelines. They're just kind of like these objects that drive the plot, or like a convenient loophole. Men are the focus in the book. There's Onder's plotline, and him and Alanon are kind of doing kingly castle stuff, and then there's Will's plotline, and he's doing save the tree stuff. The women that appear are just kind of incidental in the book. That might be an unpopular opinion, but like Amberly spends a lot of time being carried around and just being generally useless, except for the part where she becomes the tree and saves the lands. The television show did a lot of weird things that then caused more problems, I think, for the television show. So the book was just kind of your fairly standard fantasy book written in the 80s, written by a white cis male, not very diverse. Fantasy as a genre tends to be quite conservative, so it's not unsurprising that this novel isn't exactly, you know, the feminist fantasy novel I would like to read. The show does actually do some nicer things with the lady characters. Like the commander of the elf army is a woman and a person of color, and then you have Amberly, who has a lot more agency and character in the show. The show builds up Eritrea's character a lot. Eritrea is a lot more manipulative and sneaky and cunning and clever. She has a lot of skills that come in handy. Also, she is a bisexual, so we have a canonical bisexual character, which is really cool, but that led to some queer baiting. It was really baiting to put Eritrea and Amberly in a bathtub and be like, ooh, sexual tension, when they knew that that relationship was just not gonna happen. Just because of the whole plot of the book, Amberly has to turn into a tree. So even if they got together and they were a canon couple, Amberly still turns into a tree at the end, which is kind of like a weird new take on the dead lesbian trope. Another interesting thing the show did, props to MTV for casting Manu Bennett, an actual person of color, to play Al-Anon, who is a character of color. However, based on Terry Brooks' description of Al-Anon, who has a, quote, dark face, which is on page 42 in my book, they make a comparison to the black horse Al-Anon rides. Quote, a horse and rider each blacker than the other, and that's on page 66. The description of Al-Anon reads like he should be cast as a black actor, not an Indigenous Australian actor. Like, I mean, good job! You didn't whitewash Al-Anon, but I mean, you didn't really cast the right actor either. I don't know, if you guys have thoughts on Al-Anon, maybe I'm just reading Al-Anon wrong and I am racist for my interpretation of these descriptions, but I mean, when you describe someone as like blacker than the black horse, that implies to me that he should be pretty dark-skinned. This book has like no romance. It is entirely plot-driven. They want to go on their adventure, and that is great. This is not YA. There's no love triangle. The show is like, ooh, we gotta market this to teenagers. We need a random love triangle that makes no sense because none of our characters, except for the two women, have any chemistry with each other. Like Austin Butler, yes, he's gorgeous, and yes, he took his top off in almost every episode, so we know that he has a chiseled man body, but like, seriously, it's like super dangerous. There are people out to kill you. There are rovers, there are trolls, there are demons, and like, you get into the clearing and you're like, hey Amberly, it's super dangerous. Like, we gotta like rest so we don't run into the bad guys. Oh, wait a minute, let me take off your top. What? Like, Will's character in the show is entirely motivated by his penis. Either Eritrea or Amberly, they're totally interchangeable. He doesn't seem to have great chemistry with either one. He's like, you are female, you have boobs, I would like to put my penis in you. Will is like a golden retriever that hasn't been neutered, and there are tons of random sex scenes, really passionate kisses, and then there's this laughable line in the 10th episode where Amberly's like, oh, I love you so much, Will. And he's like, I love you from the first moment I met you, except then I banged Eritrea, but I still love you. Then they have a sex scene with like a strobe light in the background because obviously, you know, when you're in a cave at nighttime, you just bring your strobe light along for visual effects, and between like each throb of light, there's less and less clothing. The world is coming to an end, and you decide to have sex. That is not in the book. The show just exploited the gorgeous actors that they had and got them naked as much as possible for completely ridiculous reasons. Like the amount of times that Will just like took his shirt off for no reason. So the one thing that I really liked about the book is on the way to the Bloodfire, they had to go through the Hollows. The Hollows is this like haunted dark space where magic still exists, and these two witch sisters, live there, and they are feuding with each other. The darkness, the creepiness, the magic. I loved that. That was fantastic. The show kind of pathetically popped up these two sisters and they span around the thing that Eritrea hole punched her hand with to release the blood fire, which is also not in the book. And they kind of spun around and Will was like, bam, elf stones, you're dead now. Because the elf stones, which are for seeking BT dubs. So the witches in the show sucked, but in the book, the Hollows was so spooky and so great, and I loved it. The only thing that is problematic about that is that both witches have been feuding for hundreds of years over a guy. Here are these two really badass, powerful ladies who are fighting over a guy instead of doing other things with their power. Now granted, it's a good thing that they're not doing other things with their power because they're evil. You are probably wondering, Emily, did you even like this experience? Yes and no. This was kind of a fun read. It was a problematic read in many ways, but a lot of fantasy is. Overall, I think I would give the book 2.5 or 3 stars on Goodreads. Like in the okay, I liked it kind of range. The book has some really cool ideas. The book also has a very, very man-heavy cast. All of the important people, except for Amberly, who has to become a tree, are men. In contrast, the television show has some badass female characters, has some queer characters, has some people of color, mind you, but at the same time, the show is just kind of a really weird take on the books. I don't know if this is because I haven't read any other books in Brooke's world. So there are these weird subplots with Bandon and Al-Anon and Eritrea that kind of just happen and you're like, why? Isn't the point to get the Elcrease not to die? Like, why is this happening? I don't know if they introduce the seeds of plots from other books to kind of feed a second season if that happens. From my point of view, having only read this book, it felt like the television show bit off more than it could chew, and it went in too many different directions without developing enough. The television show, in terms of plot, character, internal consistency, and logic, gets a 2 out of 5 for me. It doesn't seem to be a very well constructed television show in terms of a fantasy plotline. In terms of a YA romance, MTV, Vampire Diaries, supernatural soap opera, it fits. But I don't think it fits well with the genre of the book, if that makes sense. In terms of entertainment value, oh my god, like 10 out of 5 stars. Holy shit, I had so much fun making fun of this show and developing my own headcanon. The amount of inside jokes that I have with my sister who watched this with me, phenomenal. If you are willing not to take the show seriously, great. Great entertainment. If you want to watch the show for whatever reason, because I don't think I really sold the television show in this review, I would read the book so that you have the context and then watch the show, because things will make a whole heck of a lot more sense. If you want to watch the show for some lulz, I would recommend it. If you want to see some half-naked Austin Butler, definitely got like at least 9 episodes of that. He's a pretty good-looking human, you know? That's fun. There's a lot of eye candy in the show. Oh, and the CGI, the special effects, the demons, really well done. The Dag d'Amour, superb. Amazing, except they spent their whole fucking budget on the Dag d'Amour. And then so Will's Elfstone powers are like, they must have been by a different special effects team, because Elfstone magic was just super cheesy. In the visuals, the show has some pluses. It's like if Game of Thrones merged with Twilight, you would have this kind of angsty teen medieval dragon magic setting. If that appeals to you, watch the show. So this has been my hashtag Beyond the Cover comparison of The Elfstones of Shannara by Terry Brooks to The Chronicles of Shannara Season 1. If you have read this or any of other Terry Brooks' works, I would love to chat. If you have watched the show, I would love to chat. If you would like to put them in dialogue together with me, again, I would love to do that. If you have any recommendations on where to go next with Terry Brooks, like do I just keep reading in chronological order? Do I go someplace else? So once again, the link to the blog that has all of the people doing this will be in the description box down below. Check them out. A lot of really cool things happening. Highly, highly recommend that you look at some of these things because it's awesome, it's bookish, it'll give you some more things to read and to watch and increase that ever-growing TBR of yours. If you stuck around to the end, yes, I'm back, I'm not dead. Thank you for sticking around while grad school took over my life. I've been reading a lot, guys. I have tons of things to review. So look forward to some wrap-ups, some reviews. If you want me to do any videos or tags or anything that you've seen floating around in the month that I've been absent from the internet, let me know in the comments down below. I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!